What's up guys, in this video we're going to model this scope that you see on the screen right now using HardOps and Box Cutter. Now before we get started with the video, this is a bit more intermediate, so if you're kind of familiar with Blender and the modeling tools, then you should be able to follow along. If not, if you still need a bit more experience, we have two different programs for you. One is our HardOps and Box Cutter program, which will teach you basically how to use the HardOps and Box Cutter tools extremely quickly. And if you're a complete beginner to Blender, I would definitely recommend grabbing our Hard Surface Accelerator program. And I'll link both of those below in the description, and I'll even throw in a 40% off coupon so you can save a bit of money. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started. Alright, so we're going to start here with a basic cylinder. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to add a cylinder. Do 64 vertices just because, I don't know, that's the number I usually use, no specific reason. Then I'm just going to scale this by 0.5. I'm going to take this face, we're going to move it all the way over here. And then we're going to take this face and we're going to extrude it. And then S, Shift Y, I guess that doesn't really matter. Do something like that. And then extrude this over here somewhere. Maybe move this back a bit, like that. Okay, something simple, just a simple shape to kind of start off the tutorial. And then what I want to do here is I want to, let's see, let's go to the back, let's add in a loop cut. I'm going to face mode, we're going to shift click on curve extract. This will basically extract the faces, kind of create this plate right here. Go to cavity, make that look nice. Okay. Then what we could do is maybe do this one more time. Just gonna bevel this. Shift click curve extract here, do something like that. For whatever reason, when you use that, it turns off the cavity, so you can press Alt V or just go up here to turn that back on. And now what I want to do over here is, let's see. I'm going to add in a sphere, so Shift A, we're going to go to UV sphere, Control 1, add one level of sub D, shade smooth, apply the geometry, and then basically what I want to do is run a cut here. Then I'm just going to mirror this cut down there. And then I can actually duplicate this. So Shift D, R, X, 90, and I can remove this mirror modifier on this one. I actually want to move this back a bit, and then we can run a difference boolean here and mirror that to the other side, or just mirror the object itself. Let's go here and make sure we're mirroring over the active origin. There we go. And then we could do maybe one more here on this side. Okay. And then literally just go in, operation, smart apply. This is just a basic shape that I want to create. Something like that. And I might even undo this real quick. Let's go to ever scroll. Let's scale this. Make this a bit tighter. A little bit more maybe. And then here. Like that. And then maybe one more right here. And I think, yeah, that should be good enough. Smart apply. Cool. And then I just want to go over here and let's shift click on sharpen, just kind of move the mouse. Or what we can do is just go in here and then right click to mark sharp, just so we have that sharp definition for visuals. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to press Control R. Going to add in a loop cut here in this area. And then Q, Alt click on EM macro. Get a little detail like that. And then I just want to go in here and inset this. So I'm going to press I to inset. I'm going to extrude this. I to inset again. Extrude this back. And then I to inset again. And then just kind of extrude this a lot further back. Kind of get a detail like that. And then just to add some more dynamic elements to it, I'm going to pull these back a little bit. You can kind of mark these as sharp, just so we have a sharp mark in there. Okay, it looks pretty good. And then I'm going to press Control A to apply the scale. And then just bevel the inside a little bit. And that'll kind of be the inside of the scope, more or less. Cool. All right, that's looking pretty decent. No complaints here. Let's go to this piece and control click on sharpen or just smart apply, it doesn't really matter. And that'll just allow us to, make sure everything's applied. Go in here and bevel that. And then what I want to do here is, I forgot to mirror this to the other side. Let me just apply that. I'm going to go to this face right here and Q, shift click on curve extract. Just kind of scale this down. And we have some redundant geometry. So you know what, instead of doing that, just because of how this circle is going, what I can do is shift S, cursor to selected, and then we'll just add in a cylinder manually and rotate that. And do something along those lines, Control B. And go over here and curve extract this area. Just make a little detail like that. And then basically what I can do is, do something kind of like that. So something simple just to kind of get the basic shape going. And then I'm just going to select everything and bevel. For some reason I'm getting a Python, so we'll just do these individually. Bevel that one, bevel this one. I think my blender just needs up to date. And then we'll just smart apply this guy. And go in here and bevel. And that one's beveled, and then just one more or two more over here. Just to kind of give those nice edge highlights. And then I'm going to go into this one, and we're going to add in a manual bevel. Because although, I guess the bevel's not picking up in this area, and good lord, this auto smooth update, I don't understand the point of it. I really don't. It adds it used to be in here, you would just tick on auto smooth and it would be fine. Now you got to add 20 modify. It's so confusing. Anyways, if I were to go in here and adjust the angle, it should pick up this area. It's a bit interesting that it's not. And there we go. So you're going to see a bevel that tiny is just not really that clean for this type of angle. So what I'm going to do in here is bevel these. But you want to make sure you clear the sharps, otherwise you'll have those sharps still showing. So you can right click to clear the sharp. We're going to kind of get a nice transition in that bevel, kind of like that. And what I tend to do personally is if it's kind of tight like this, I do a smaller bevel. If it's a larger area like this, I kind of do a bigger bevel. I just think it looks cleaner. And then we'll just go in and you can also just recalculate the sharps, Control Shift click on sharpen, and that'll take care of that. And then just to get rid of these lines right here, we can actually go in and just add in some loop cuts here. That'll be good. And then in this area, you can always adjust the angle a bit. Looks pretty decent. Make sure you save your scene. I've been getting a lot of crashes recently and not too sure why, but it's kind of the name of the game. All right, so this is looking pretty clean. No big complaints. Then I'm just gonna go in here. Let's duplicate this. Let's rotate and let's move this. You can just eyeball it, doesn't really matter. Kind of add a detail in like this. And then just take this guy and let's curve extract. Smart apply, and we're just going to take this bottom area, kind of move that down. And then I'm going to go in here and checker deselect these faces here. So E to extrude, right click, and then Alt S. I'm going to scale these on the Z, and then just add a bevel to create something like that. Yeah, that should be fine, I think. All right, awesome. And then let's see what else we could add. I'm going to go in here and let's go into the back view. I'm going to add in a cylinder. I'm going to rotate this. Let me actually press Shift S, cursor to world origin, move that back to the middle. I'm going to take the cylinder and rotate it. We're going to move this back. Just like that. And then I'm just going to add in a regular bevel modifier here. Apply the scale. Remove these garbage auto smooth modifiers. Just to ramp that up a little bit. And then if we go into hard ops and Alt M and shift click on add blank material, it'll give us a kind of glass material. Now there's a color here. If you don't want to see the color, let's change this setting here to object, and that should give everything just like a neutral color. I'm fine with that, you know, bluish tint. If you don't like it, you can go in here to the material, go to viewport display, and you can actually reset this. So just do like 111, or if you want this to be more gray, you know, you can dial that down a bit. And this will kind of give you more of an idea of like what the glass is going to look like on the inside here. Now, I think right back there is fine. Again, I'm not like an engineer. I don't design scopes for a living. I'm just teaching you the techniques and the modeling tools, but you know, you can put the glass in there however you want. You know, it's funny, I always get some people, like, I might make a modeling tutorial on like different types of things, and people are like, oh, it actually works like this. And I'm like, this is why you niche down when you're learning Blender. I'm teaching the hard surface modeling workflows and tools. I'm not an expert on tanks, for example. I could study it and I could certainly learn it, but I'm teaching the tutorials, I'm teaching the workflows, so it's kind of up to you to apply those techniques into whatever, you know, field you're in. Right, that's what I prefer to do. I prefer to teach. So we're gonna go in here, and what do I want to do with this one? I have an idea. I'm gonna add in a loop cut here, and then I'm going to inset twice, E to extrude, and then Alt S just to kind of create maybe some detail, kind of like that, which is pretty cool. Then I'm gonna go back to this one. We're gonna add in another detail here in the back. Q, Alt click on EM macro, kind of do something like that. Notice how these tiny details really enhance the shape and the form. It's super important. Now these artifacts are really annoying me. You know, you could always use like a bevel shader at the rendering stage, but if these bother you, you could always use like, you know, an offset cut or whatever. You could try a Boolean cleanup with Mesh Machine, you know, kind of get those merged together. I don't think it's a big deal right now. Can always handle that later on. Then I'm just going to add in one more detail here on the front. Let's add in a tiny chamfer, kind of like that. And then just add in one more detail up here towards the front, just like that. Just to really enhance everything. I just think it looks way better when you do that. Okay, so far so good. And then what else could we do? I'm gonna go over to this one right here, same type of idea. It's gonna add in a tiny like enhancement detail, whatever you want to call it, kind of like that. And then I could kind of move that up, kind of get a detail like that. It almost looks more attached when you add in that bevel. So bevels can really help emphasize different functional elements, or at least give the illusion that, you know, this is kind of attached. Like if I undo this, you know, before I added in that detail, it wasn't, you know, that exciting, but when I add in that tiny detail, all of a sudden you have way more visual appeal and it almost looks more functional. So bevels are super easy to use, and they can really change the entire look of your design. That's why, like, you know, when people see different shapes, like you can make the shape look more interesting just by using bevels. It's really that simple. There's no trick or hack. Just use bevels. Now let's see what I could do with this one over here. I'm thinking about cutting like a little wedge right here. I don't know if that'll look interesting or not. Let's go ahead and just adjust the bevel angle. By the way, with hard ops, you would just press Q, bevel, and then press the A key. Then if you move your mouse to the left or right, it'll just kind of adjust that angle. I think that looks kind of interesting. I might leave that and go here into the back and just add in just like a chamfer right there. That looks pretty cool. All right, let's see what else we could do over here. I'm gonna go to this one. The same type of idea, just add in some enhancing details, just like that. Maybe go to this one, just add in a, let me remove these. Just add in a, first of all, apply the scale. Then just add in a chamfer. You can adjust that angle if you need to. I'm gonna go inside of this scope right here and add in some additional visual appeal, because a lot of the focus is going to be on the front because this is kind of the most important area. So I'm going to create this. Then I'm just going to expand the selection, turn off the overlays, and you can kind of move this around and see where the placement should go. So I can kind of see that stacking the detail around here looks more visually appealing. And this is like more intuition more than anything. If you need like a full guide on visual design and how all of this works, so that way you have like a formula to follow, we do have a course on that. It's called the Shape Bootcamp program. And again, all that stuff will be linked in the description. So if you're really struggling with like visual design, making your objects look aesthetic, that's probably a good option for you as well. And again, I'll link that in the description. But you can kind of see it by stacking these elements, these circular elements. It just looks better. You don't want to overdo it though. A lot of people overdo it, and then you get something called sandwiching. And basically that just means you have way too many details stacked. Like if I added another one right here, it's going to lose that interest. Like it's just a bit heavy. It's just too much going on. I try to keep this nice and balanced and just add enough and no more basically. And you can see just by adding in those elements and visual details, a lot of the focus goes to the front because we have all of this empty space over here. So don't, get scared if you see empty space. You can use that empty space to not only make your workflow quicker because you have to model less, but also to use it as an anchor for the eye. Empty space is so useful, but people think it's bad because they feel like they're cheating because they just left it empty. No, that's actually correct. So use empty space to your advantage. And I also want to move some of this stuff here just to the right a little bit, just closer to where that bevel is. I just think it'll look better. And what else could I do here? Let's see. I was thinking about scaling all of this down a bit. I'm not sure how it'll look, so the best way to find out is to give it a try. We're just going to kind of scale all of this down. Just put this in the right position more or less. And I think that looks a little bit more balanced because I think it was too large before. It's a bit tough. I think somewhere in between. So, scale is also very important, proportions and the sizing of things. So you can see, just by slightly scaling things, you get a completely different visual look. Now I think here we could go somewhere in between. So, feel free to turn off overlays, try different sizes and things like that. A lot of times if your models don't look visually appealing, it's simply because, things are out of proportion, out of scale. So just kind of use your eye, use your intuition, and over time, you'll kind of develop that skill set. I don't know, something like this is fine, honestly. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then I'm thinking about just duplicating this piece of the scope and scaling this up a bit just to run a difference boolean through that piece. Just so we kind of have like a physical hole going on there. Now, if you want to quickly hide your cutters collection, you would just find the cutters collection. In this case, HardOps a box cutter adds one automatically. It's the second collection here, and you would press Shift 2, or you could just turn off the eyeball. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so it's looking pretty clean. I like it so far. And I'm debating whether I want to create the same detail here on the other side. So let's see, let me mirror this across this piece and see how that looks. Maybe I could delete, one of these elements here. I don't know, not sure what I want to do with that. I don't want to keep it too symmetrical, but this looks pretty interesting, so I might leave it alone. What I could also do, just smart apply that, and then since these are one object here, basically just go into edit mode, press the L key, delete those vertices, and we're good to go. Okay, what I might do here is add in some sort of turning mechanism. So I'm going to separate this, press the L key, P to separate by selection. Then we're just going to go in here, kind of move this to the center. And I'm going to add in, let's do 3 of these. Actually, I'm not sure. Let's take these and just bevel them one more time. And then I'm going to take this area here, shift click on curve extract, just add a small bevel. Okay, let me just remove that extra bevel. There's like a redundant one. And go in, just kind of bevel that. I think that's a bit too many. I'm going to undo this. Let's just do 3 and then bevel this area to give a nice separation. So 1, 2, 3, shift click on curve extract, remove this redundant bevel here, and just do something kind of like that. And then like later on, we could use a trim sheet to add in like additional detail to that area. So we're not spending too much time on the modeling part. Now I might make this solidify a little bit larger, just like that. That looks pretty good. We could even go in and out of orthographic mode just to kind of see, you know, how this looks from different angles, different perspectives, you know, simple stuff like that. Okay, let's see what else we could do. I'm going to add in one more visual detail over here. I'm just going to go in and just kind of bevel that. And then maybe take this edge and just kind of pull that back a little bit. I just think that looks a little bit more visually appealing in that area. It kind of gives a nice separation, which is cool. Okay, and as for the inside here, I think this is all fine. I don't think I have any complaints. I could try adding in a larger bevel here. I don't know if that'll look good. Let's turn off overlays. I think that looks a bit softer, so I might do that. Just to kind of have a larger bevel in that area. And what else? Let's hop here into material mode. Now I'm going to load in a custom HDRI. The one I'm using as always is called Abandoned Slipway. You can get that on polyhaven.com. I believe I have it loaded in already, so we're just going to load that. And then basically what I want to do here is just get some materials added. Now you can either use default Blender materials and adjust the color here. However, ever since we developed the Material Works add-on, we've basically stopped using Blender materials just because they're less quality in my opinion. You can't add in the textures and stuff as easily. So you can use Blender materials if you want, but I'm going to be using Material Works partially because I want to promote our product shamelessly because it's good, and also because this is genuinely a clean set of textures that you can use. So we could try like all sorts of different ones. I think something basic is going to be best for here. We can actually filter these. We could go to like metal, for example. Could try this one. A little bit too dark, but it could work. You can always adjust the color in Material Works as well. I'm just trying to see which presets look the best. There's this cool one right here, which is called Cyber Titanium. So it kind of has some texture on that as well. We could even go in and, you know, kind of adjust the color a bit. This kind of depends what you want. I think something just very neutral is probably going to be good with not too much texture. This Midnight Steel is pretty clean, and we could also do like maybe this one. So I'm going to go in and I'm just going to increase this color and then just kind of drop that value so it's a bit less dark. And then we can select everything else with the A key and then go here to copy material to selected. And then we can kind of adjust these and, you know, give different materials to different areas. Also, you can kind of play with the roughness. I think 1 is fine. Also, you can turn on or off the metallic values. I like to keep this set to 1 because it is metallic. And of course, you can, you know, adjust the color and things like that. So that looks pretty clean. Let's go ahead and add in a floor. It just kind of makes things easier to look at. So I could just, you know, add in a floor kind of like that. And then we're just going to go in here and add in some other materials. So maybe for this one, what I could actually do is add in a new user. So I could actually copy this material. You can click on this button, and that's going to give us like a separate material to adjust. So I could go in, you know, adjust it that way. So maybe make this area a little bit lighter, right? So I could do the same thing here. Just give this the other material. just for some nice contrast. It's always a decent idea. Okay, it looks pretty good so far. And then here for the glass, we do have glass materials in here, just 2 basic ones. You don't need anything fancy for glass. So I'm going to do something kind of like that. I don't think we really need to adjust the roughness values or anything. You could also adjust the alpha here using this one. That'll kind of give you like a more natural looking glass, so it's not like you can kind of see through it, right? Just something basic like that. And then we can start adding in other details like trim sheets, decals. Like most of that is kind of for the tertiary details. So for example, what I could do here, say this was some sort of like gear mechanism, right? What I could actually do is go in here. Let me just quickly smart apply everything on this one. And in our most recent MaterialWorks update, we have trim sheet compatibility, meaning if you add a trim sheet or a decal to your object, it's going to inherit that texture. So it's going to have a seamless transition. It's going to look like you actually modeled in that detail. So MaterialWorks is going to have everything for you. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here and just use any of these trim sheets really. If you don't have our trim sheet pack or MaterialWorks add-on, you can actually get both of those as a bundle with the MaterialWorks product. You'll save a bit of money there. And for whatever reason, this is a Blender limitation, or I think a decal machine limitation. I can't like stack these into columns, so it kind of takes up the screen a bit, but it's not a huge issue. So I can go in and alt-click on the trim, and then I can just kind of scroll through here until I find, a detail that I like. And notice how it's inheriting the material, right? It's not using a separate material. So I could use something that's a little bit too heavy, but you could find one that kind of matches the vibe you're going for, like something like that. Like good luck modeling in all that tiny detail. It's going to be borderline impossible. Let's try that again. Go in here. And this time we don't have to alt-click. If you alt-click, it's going to add a separate thing. You don't want to do that. So once you add in one trim, you don't have to alt-click anymore. We're going to hold Control and just scroll through these again. See if we can't find anything decent, something like that. And then maybe here we could try just something completely different. That's a textured one, so make sure you're not using the textured trims. Otherwise, it's going to cause issues. If you're using MaterialWorks, you don't need, see what I mean? You don't need the textured trims, so you just need the non-textured ones. And we'll just go in here and find, maybe a less heavy one. Like any of these really. Just added in that already. So what I could do is just do something simple like that, which is pretty cool. I'm just going to go in here and add in a decal. So let's find any of these decals really. And again, this all comes in our decal pack. You'll literally get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these decals, more than you'll ever need in a lifetime. So if you do plan to get the MaterialWorks plugin, just get the, I think it's called the Platinum Edition. It just includes all our decals and trims as well. And you'll save quite a bit of money that way. So we're going to go in and just kind of project this on here somewhere. So alt-click on project. It'll project it to that scope. And I think that looks clean. You could put that wherever you want really. You could put it back here if you want. It doesn't really matter. Then I'm just going to go over here to this guy and we're just going to add in maybe another trim. So maybe something kind of like that could be cool. So it kind of looks like you can, like turn this almost. So this was the before and then this is the after. And you notice it kind of has this texture on it, which is kind of cool. It's not that obvious, but it can kind of add some additional realism to the object. All right, this is looking pretty clean. I'm also going to make this floor a different material. We could try like a floor. I believe we have a lot of floor materials in here. So like we have composite floor, we have this diamond rubber, this floor right here, indented rubber. There's all sorts of different ones you could use. This rubber mat, I think just something basic is going to be fine for this one. So we could try, let's see, composite floor maybe. I don't know if this will be too heavy. You could apply the scale. We also have this cool Velcro material, so I could actually go in and just play with that scale a little bit. Play with the rotation. The Velcro is pretty cool. Just depends what kind of material you want. Alright, so this is looking pretty clean. No complaints. I'm actually just going to use this diamond rubber texture here on the bottom. I think that looks better. Alright, and we could actually preview this in cycles here. We'll just go to rendered mode. And we need to make sure in cycles we have the HDRI loaded in as well. So we're just going to go here, going to go to environment texture and get the same one, the abandoned slipway, loaded in. And again, like I said, abandoned slipway you can just download for free on Polyhaven. Notice it gives you this really nice type of neutral like lighting effect to it. So at this point, you can see this is really, really clean. The lighting's hitting it nicely. The materials are matching. We have some nice contrast here. I could even go into orthographic and you're going to see this is a pretty decent render setup already, and I haven't even rendered it. So before we do our final render, let's see if we can't add in any additional or final detail here, because once you render it, that's basically the end of the result. I might add in some tiny decals here in the back. It's always good to kind of add those. I think it looks cool. So, it doesn't really matter what they are. It just kind of, can look cool. So we could kind of move that back. I could even go in here and run a radial array. So just something like that. You might need to offset these a little bit. Actually, maybe not. That looks fine. And then there's just some floating ones down here. So what we could do is just smart apply that. And then just delete these floating ones. Just press the L key and delete those. And you can project these as well if you want. So Alt click. Maybe it doesn't work with a radial array. I don't know. Yeah, maybe with a radial array we can't do that, but it's fine. Those are kind of sitting on there nicely. Then we have a ton of other decals in here, tiny ones that can just kind of enhance the form a bit. But place these strategically. Don't place them for the sake of placing them. Otherwise, it's just going to look, I don't know, it's weird. So we could even go here and add in like something simple like this. Just rotate that. Just like maybe this is some sort of logo. Just get creative with it, right? I don't like the rotation of that. I want to keep this kind of like these other ones. So that could be like, maybe that's like a logo of a manufacturer. It's a weird logo, but you kind of get the idea there. Just kind of meant to enhance the form. It's almost like, I guess the best analogy here is decals are like jewelry. Like you don't need them necessarily, but they kind of enhance the visual appeal almost. So this can be cool, especially if you're like branding an object, you kind of want to add a decal. So if you were actually manufacturing a scope, you'd probably want to put the name of your company, right? Now you're still going to notice we have these artifacts here. You could fix this manually, slide the vertices out of the way, whatever. I think a much easier solution here. I'm just going to smart apply everything, and let me actually remove this bevel. Remove that bevel. We'll smart apply, and instead what we can do, if we were to go into rendered mode, you can actually use our bevel shader. Just tick that on in Material Works. It's going to add in a bevel for you. So you're not going to be able to see a difference at all. So it's now a procedural bevel. You can make this larger. Just don't go too crazy or it's going to look fake. I'm just going to use that small one, the 0.01. I tend to use physical bevels, so bevel modifiers when I can, but in situations like this where it's just causing artifacts, I'll just use a shader. It's completely fine. Now what I want to do is just select this floor. I'm going to make it a little bit brighter. Just not too bright, but I don't know, maybe 0.05. Just so it reflects a little bit more light there on the bottom. I'm also going to make sure it's levitating. You could technically put it on the floor, but this makes the object look lighter when you're doing a render of it levitating. Obviously, this object would not levitate in real life, but the idea is to communicate the result, and it kind of makes it look lighter when you do that. Assuming you get the shadow in the render, that is. So this texture is a little bit crazy. I might rotate this a bit more so it's not so strange on the eye, so something like that. Now it's not so noticeable. And then we just kind of have like a basic setup that we could use for our render, which is great. All right, so first let's get in here. Let's add in a camera with Shift A. And then what we can do is go up here to View, Align Active Camera to View. And I tend to use a much higher focal length. So I'm gonna go for like 135. And you could even go here in the output, if you wanted to do like a 21:9, you could go 3440 by 1440. That might be better for this render, but given that this is gonna be my YouTube thumbnail, I can't use that resolution. I need it to be 16:9, so just for the tutorial, I'm gonna use 16:9. You could even go for like a Dutch angle. Instead of angling it down, I'd want this to kind of angle up, kind of scale that. And there's way too much empty space here, which is fine, but not this much. We can kind of scale that in. Again, 21:9 would be better here, I think, but I need a decent YouTube thumbnail, so I don't really have that freedom in this case. And you can also turn off this render region, or turn that on, so you can actually see like a preview of the render. I'm not like the world's best at framing or anything. It's probably one of the worst things that I struggle with, but it's something you get better at over time. So I'm just trying to find something decent. I'll probably pause the video here until I find a decent framing. And if it still looks strange, you can also go for something higher, like even a 225. Could even be better. If you go too low, like 70, and zoom it in, it's just not going to have the same effect. So I like to go for a more orthographic type of look. I'm going to make this still a little bit brighter, this floor. I just think it'll look better for the final result. And again, I'm still trying to find, where I want to position this. So I'm going to pause the video just so you're not watching me move this for God knows how long. And you know what? I'm even going to go in here, and I think I could add a decal here on the side. I know it's already, well, actually I didn't rotate the actual object, so that's fine. But what I could do is go in here and just add a decal here to the side. So let me do that real quick. I just think it'll look cooler. That's a bit of a strange one. It's too heavy on the detail. I want something pretty much empty that can just kind of enhance the look. So we could go in, could try like this one. That's a power button. That's not going to make any sense. So I could try, I don't know, there's quite a few here I could use. I could try like this one. That's kind of interesting. It looks like there's a light on it, which I don't really want. You can always turn that off though, but it's not really noticeable. It's fine. Kind of gives it a sci-fi look as well. So, we could do that. Let's go back to the camera mode. That's 0 on the numpad. All right, so this is kind of a decent result here. I made the floor a little bit brighter. I think the camera is in just about the best position we're gonna get. I think this is fine. Again, a 21:9 would probably fit better because this is like a longer object, but I need this for a YouTube thumbnail, so I'm not doing 21:9, but you can. It'll probably look better. So now at this point, you would just render the object. You would go in here. I'd be using GPU compute. You can just use all the default settings. Everything's fine. And yeah, literally everything's fine in here. Just leave it alone. Make sure the percentage is set to 100, 2560 by 1440, or 3440 by 1440 if you want a 21:9. You can copy my settings here. I just render as a TIFF. 16-bit RGBA is fine. Metadata, you can put like a note. You could put the name of your brand or whatever. And then you just press the F12 key. And then just wait for this to render. Alright, so this is the final result after a little bit of post-processing in Photoshop. And again, I'm going to link all the resources in the description below. So if you want to grab some of our courses on visual design, or you want to grab Material Works or whatever, I'll link those in the description below. And I'll even throw in an additional coupon for the next couple of days. You can save some money on any of those products. And also, if you have any requests or any type of tutorials you want to see, or if you want more modeling tutorials like this, just let me know. I'm happy to do more. Other than that, thanks for watching. Again, all resources in the description below, and I'll see you in the next video.